Welcome to the Vinyl Collective. We're back for another episode, your weekly journal of the hip-hop R&B landscape. I'm your host, John.
And I'm your co-host, Topher. Welcome. So, episode 15, you mentioned. You know, when I was thinking about when I was 15, right? I don't know why they talk about, you don't really learn like economics and finances in school when they should teach that in the schools, right?
Yeah.
But one thing I learned very young is the whole concept of playground economics, right? And one thing you learn in the playground is about assets, and popularity is your main asset. And if you know anything about assets, John, you got to sell when it's high. There's no point having an asset when it's low.
That's true.
And with popularity, you can build that asset in many ways. If you come from the type of school that I was from, it's either you're really good at a sport, you're good looking, or, you're roadman or you're roadman adjacent, which are all these avenues that can help you. And with popularity, you can leverage that as any other asset, you can use that to, make other people popular. Maybe have a nerd friend that you want to bring into the crew, things like that, And much as same way we treat people who have a lot of assets in the world, they kind of get away with things that you just wouldn't normally get away with. So if a popular kid, quote unquote, does something that is, might be considered nerdy, that person might get away with it. But if a nerdy kid did it, he's going to get wrecked, isn't he? That's just...
What were you at school?
Me, I don't know. I think I've been very much in between, wasn't I? Like, I don't know. I wouldn't say I was in the bottom end of the spectrum.
It's funny when you mentioned economics in the playground. The first thing I thought of was, I know on British Twitter, there was that thing going around like what makes you, how do you know you went to a British school? And then there's the picture of someone's sports bag full of Kit Kat multi-packs. And that's what I think of when I'm supply and demand. My first lessons in economics was kids selling in school.
Exactly.
Selling a Kit Kat for £1, but they bought 4 for £1.
There you go.
Or selling that, what was it? Selling the Trident chewing gum. Do you remember when they had all those flavours of Trident?
Yeah.
It was watermelon and...
fucking chemicals.
I'm upset I never got into that. Kids were making money.
I used to sell cookies, donuts,
of course you
Coca-Cola,
I can
all
see
that.
This.
Yeah, I was a proper lord, especially in my first secondary school. But yeah, going back again, even with that, if there's 2 people selling, right, if one person's more popular than the other, literally just off the strength of them being more popular, they just might get more sales. That's, it's a cold, hard fact of life that you learn young, right? And you kind of wish, if you're like me, this is stupid. When you get older, people won't just judge you just based off how popular you are, it'll be off other things. But, you grow up and you realize that game doesn't really change, John, does it? It's the same game, just different assets. So again, some people are more popular than others, and for that reason, they may get away with things, If I, compare back to school again, if what's so really funny, in school, all the big guys that were popular people just assumed they could fight, even though they were never battle tested. It's like, you don't want to mess with this guy. It was just a given that you just don't want to do that. So quite similar to that, John. In the real world, fast forward to 2021, we're all grown up now, and I feel like it's still continuing on. Because, for example, if I want to get into, say, a rap beef, nowadays, if I'm the more popular one, then I could just suddenly just get away with it. It's like, you don't want to mess with me, mate. And I think that's the what we're getting into.
Very, very poignant. Yeah, I was going to say, speaking of playground behaviour, this is very adult stuff. Chip and Stormzy.
Yeah,
we talked about it. We talked about it earlier. I think maybe in the autumn, because that was when a few of Chip's tracks came out. And it's still crickets from Mr. Stormzy. No response. How do we feel?
I mean, I've said it a few times. I still think it's bullshit. You can't just anyone who's saying that, people try to do the same shit for Drake as well. It's you can't just make up rules because you like someone. I know, I think people still do it anyway. That's how cancel culture works. Yeah. That's what happened a couple of weeks ago at the US Capitol. But for purists, you can't just make up rules for people you like. You just go, you know what? This is actually kind of bullshit. And I think how many diss tracks has Chip made now? Like
It's got to be like 5. It's
three,
got
five,
like
maybe
4.
Yeah, something crazy like that, right?
It's been a lot.
And at this
Especially
point,
official ones, there's definitely been like 3.
yeah, and at this point, you can't even be like, oh, you're giving him publicity because he already has that. And at the end of the day, he's fucking Chipmunk. Like he's not some up and coming rapper. He is an established legacy artist at this point. So you can't be like, oh, give him popularity. If he said that with Wiley, I would kind of get that because obviously Wiley is way past his time. So a lot of people who are listening to music now aren't listening to Wiley, but he still went for Wiley twice in a day or something like that, or twice in a couple of days.
Yeah.
Like he went for him back to back. Whereas Chipmunk is
so that's
still,
the thing. If people have another explanation or possible, if people understand this differently, then either he's A, scared that he'll lose, or B, he's just like, I'm too big for this. Like there is no other option.
I think it's the former because the reason why it can't be the latter is because didn't he pull up to his house in like Lamborghinis with the random like what the fuck is this? So obviously he's clearly bothered. So it can't be a thing where I don't think it's a thing where he does. Yeah, I just don't understand. I think it's just a thing where if it comes to music, I think Stormzy's metal will be tested. And I said this before, and I think we said it when we were talking about classic artists, where I think a lot of the great people a lot of classic artists, not classic albums, a lot of classic artists have normally been included in some sort of rap beef because this is a competitive genre. It's not soul, is it? It's not, oh my god, just gonna sing, collab with everyone. It's not that. It's just competitive. Yeah. So and Stormzy's come up on that. So it's quite interesting.
Do you think this situation is a little comparable? Say Stormzy does engage. I think people think about it in the same way they thought about the Drake Pusha T, because Drake had taken on Meek Mill and people were like, what? Like Meek Mill just like flopped. Drake won, the Lover Boy won, and then Drake came up against Pusha T, and people were like, this is not the same game. Pusha T is not going to mess around. Like he will come for you. Yeah. And I think this is maybe what's happened.
I think that's exactly what's happened, man.
Is that Stormzy's come up against Chip, and people like Chip may not be as big like commercially as you, but he has like the rapping ability, like the wordplay, the technique, the flows,
and he's built for this. Really, like he did it. He's done it against a few artists now. Like obviously, Bugs and Malone being probably the most notable of them. So like, I think he doesn't want to come against someone who's battle tested. Like when was the last time Wiley beefed someone on a song? It's been a long time. Whereas Chip he's still kind of fresh. Like he only just turned 30. Like he's not that old. Like Stormzy's only a few years younger than him. So it's like, if you really think about it, it's like he's still there. He can still take you out. And I think, given how big Stormzy is, if someone like Chipmunk just comes and just rips his head off, maybe he's worried that some of the fans might go that way, or maybe just the reason I can't believe it's above him is because he's engaged in it before. So I can't just believe that he just suddenly thinks it's above
and within
him.
The last year and a half.
Yeah. Even less than that. Still disappointed.
Probably 12 months.
Yeah, it's really recent. So I can't just believe, he's just too rich to do all of this. No, it's not that. It's something else. And
the longer you leave it, the worse it'll be if you do engage. I think at this point he won't, because how do you explain it if Chip keeps going? Because I don't think he'll stop. If he releases another in a couple of months and Stormzy still doesn't reply. But then if he does, he loses as well.
Yeah, I think he's already lost, man. In my eyes, he's already lost because, you know what? Because even, let's say it's bigger than music, right? And that's the reason why he pulled up in the fancy Lambos, made it look sexy. Then I get in that sense, maybe it's just kind of dumb because it's bigger than rap. Because obviously Jay-Z and Nas became bigger than rap after a certain point. They had to kind of kill it down. But at least it came back to rap.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like this is like, where is this? Like you're one person who's rapping, you got one person who's like doing all these things off camera, which is, and if you're talking about his brand, I know a lot of people are bringing that up, that's gonna hurt his brand way more than going blow for blow with someone. Like why, like, you lot are both have too much to lose in this game. Why are you pulling up and someone's out? Like that just sounds really wild to me. That's just do you know what I mean? Like that just sounds very irresponsible. Again, it might be maybe the situation that it actually is might be a lot bigger than we know. Who knows? I have no idea, mate. But in terms of rap, he's definitely lost in my eyes.
Yeah. Just remains to be seen what his first and next move will be.
Yeah, what do you think?
I think a lot of I think he will leave it. I think there'll be little kind of, 1-2 jabs in songs here and there, like kind of collab songs. He had one recently, didn't he?
Yeah.
Where he just kind of does the like sly atting, which people do, but I think that is not a response.
Absolutely not. It's not.
That's not a response.
And Drake's been doing that.
You can't
for the
feature
past
on someone's
2
song
years.
and call that a response.
Drake's
also, I do not buy. Just go back to Drake. I do not buy the like when he was sitting down with what was it, LeBron James and a few other people talking about the post Pusha T rap beef. Where
I think it was Rap Radar. It was Rap
Radar.
Radar.
Like, yeah, like I had another song like that was just too much.
Yeah,
Stop lying.
And he's saying, "Oh, you can rest peacefully. No, you never got outbarred." And it's like, yes, you definitely did, mate. You got outbarred. You got outcalculated. You got outmaneuvered. Like you got destroyed.
And he's like, "Oh, it just went too far. It just went too far."
Yeah.
It's like, I mean, what do you expect? It's a rap.
It's a real rapper. It's a
and
real.
The guys are seriously going at each other. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, but again, when you're too popular, I guess you can just start making up rules. Because again, same way cancel culture applies to only people that you don't like. The opposite goes for people that you do like. So you can now just like, oh yeah, actually, it's really just immature to rap. Like, why would he do that? And it's like, maybe because he's a fucking rapper, mate. Like, that's what they fucking do. Like, that's what he's paid to do. Like, I don't know why people try to like rationalize it. Like, he's literally paid to put words behind the microphone, and now you're telling him he doesn't need to do that. Like,
yeah, it's kind of the name. Like, it's in the name. Like, it does what it says on the tin.
Literally.
Rap beef, like, yeah.
Anyway.
It comes with the territory. Also going on this week though, Timberland. Talk to me about that.
Oh gosh. Like,
it's a whole conversation in itself.
Cool.
But I'll kind of crystallize what's going on.
Okay, I'll just give a quick context for the people who probably don't know. So, there was a young woman. I think she was probably from the Middle East, and she was posting like, oh, I mean, she must have said something like, oh, a lot of like modern day music is inspired by Middle Eastern music, and was like playing all these songs that from the Middle East and playing all these rap songs that kind of sampled it. I think she put like Kanye West and Timberland and stuff like that. And there was like a massive discourse in terms of, this is what I don't understand. Like, I don't even think she meant to do that. Obviously, I don't know her intent, but for somehow it went from that to, oh, these artists are just stealing songs, and it's like,
yeah, her video was it was just her like kind of standing and having like the music videos going in the background and pointing to one song, like dancing along to it, and then showing that I think it was two or three Timberland beats. One was for Jay-Z, one was for Kanye West. I've forgotten who the third was for, and then just showing that they were kind of sampled. The sample was like was kind of barely edited. And had been taken from some, I think, Middle East or at least Arabic language songs, and then people obviously took that, ran with it, and went, Timberland is stealing songs. So yeah, talk me through that. I know you're ready to go.
Yeah, for me, it's like, okay, so I would just, for anyone who literally thinks that sampling is just stealing music, then why is it called sampling and not just a cover? Why is it? I mean, they're different names for a reason. Like, if I'm covering a song, if Lana Habis is performing fucking Say a Little Prayer, you're not going to be like, she stole that song. It's like, she's covering the song. So there's a name for that. Yeah. There's a name when you just kind of copy the song. It's just called a cover. Okay, that's one. That just really confuses me. Cool. Sampling is when you take a bit of the song and then you manipulate that and you incorporate it throughout your track or in parts of your track, which is what I believe has been done here. You put some hip hop beats on there, put some 808s, put some drums. Suddenly, it's not the same song you listen to. Like, gives you a completely different feel, gives you a completely different response. Like, I think, do you know what it is? I think it's one of those things where I think people think that music is simply just words put together or sounds just put together, and I don't think they think there's an art behind arrangement of sound or arrangement of just literally arrangement of sound. I think that's literally what it is. So sampling could sometimes just be like, oh, I think that song's nice, or I think that little hook is nice, and that's what that could be all it is. And sampling. Yeah, I just don't. It doesn't in my head. I'm trying to be like rational. I'm trying to like not rational, sympathize, empathize. That's
Yeah.
it. But in my head, it just doesn't make sense because sampling,
Yeah.
by definition, isn't stealing because you are sampling some of the track. So I don't
See,
understand.
I can
talk
kind
to
of
me, John.
see. I can see this. I'm not going to call it her perspective. I don't even know what her name is, but I can kind of see the perspective of some people on that side saying, if their point is, there's a lot of influence of Arabic language music or of certain cultures, and it's prevalent in hip hop music, and you guys don't know about it. And I think, that's definitely a conversation to have. Like people, I find it really interesting working out where samples are from, and I could definitely understand that. But as long as like royalties are paid, like this is kind of like the evolution of music, right? Like
like
you take on, but that's actually where I think Timbaland does kind of garner some legit criticism. Is that in the past there have been examples of him apparently not paying royalties to people and having taken and sampled people's music. I think it was a Danish group at one point, and didn't pay them royalties. So I do get that, especially when it's like a dominant like culture, like American culture, or like like Western, like Anglophone countries. They just like plunder resources. Like you can kind of see where that point of view is coming from.
No, I get that.
Yeah,
I get that. I think in the sense of, I think the credit should be given in any
absolutely.
form. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think we're living in an era now where people were like, "Oh, look, I was involved too." Like, don't forget what I mean was, if I'm paying you, like for example, if I pay someone to clean my car and I'm like, "Oh, look at my nice clean car," I'm not expecting the fucking car cleaner to be like, "Oh, look, actually, I was the one who waxed it and I was the one who washed the tires." And I'm not expecting that. I fucking paid you to do that. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's different. If you did it for free, I'd be like, "Oh, Rob, my friend, cleaned up my car. That was really nice of him." That's different. Completely different thing. I am paying you to use some of your songs. That's it. I don't need to. What do you want to do? Shout you out in the song? What? Do you know what I mean? Like, make a tweet saying, "Oh yeah, by the way, this song was inspired." Like, a good example of this is her. I love me. I gotta get my little her rag on. She has that song. Is it Lost Souls? That's like an interpolation of Lauryn Hill's Lost One. Okay, everyone, it's very clear as day that's an interpolation, or pretty much, if not sampling it straight off. No one's gonna be like, actually, that song actually came from Lauryn Hill in 1998. You need to.
I get what you mean. I get what you mean, but there's a difference. I think the point a lot of people might be making is the difference of cultures, right? And of like,
but that's not on.
As I said earlier, like the dominant. No. But that's why it's different just from like an American artist sampling an American song or doing a cover of a British song. That's where I do kind of understand people, but then that's just on consumers of music to take it upon themselves to understand music as well.
Exactly. Doesn't everyone say they have such a diverse music taste? When you ask them, it's like, I actually listen to anything. Like, I'm not really stuck to one genre. Like, I listen to everything. So if you do listen to everything, then you know what I mean? Why are you surprised when someone's sampling some shit from fucking India or whatever? Like, because there's some people who really do listen to literally anything. It's not even just music. You spoke about it last week when we did the Amia Brave interview, where fucking Fred again just takes samples from like adverts and shit like that. Yeah. Like, people do that shit. People legit really do that shit. So when they are taking songs from other countries, other languages, it's not on them to be like, actually, by the way, this came from the depths of Vietnam, and I just need to shout out to my friend. Let me not be too problematic, but do you know what I mean? Just shout out to my friend, whatever. Like, you don't need to do all of that. Like, he's doing that by giving the credits. And if you want to find out the sample, you can easily find the sample. Like, I don't know what they want artists to do. Like, because even if you're talking about song making, what, you want to shout out the engineer? You want to shout out my A&R? Where does it stop? Like, just because the song, like most music's been around for how long, right? Most music now is based on what someone else has already done. So, I think that's just a given. Yeah. So I'm just gonna.
No, I get it. I get it. I think the only kind of valid point that they would be making is about the kind of power element of it, right?
Yeah, like, don't worry, if you're a massive art, like, I don't know, like, I still don't get it, because even if I'm Jay-Z, right, and I'm sampling, like, a Nina Simone song you've never heard, I think sometimes, you know what it is? I think sometimes sampling is like homework. That's the way I see it, because it's not like you can't tell there's a sample in some of these songs. And if you like a song, so for me, there's sometimes, I'll be like, I like that sample, and I just look to what the sample is. Sometimes the sample connects to the song's meaning. Sometimes the sample kind of adds more depth to the song. I think that's what sampling is kind of born to do, like just add more depth. So I don't think it's literally necessarily on the artist to be like, oh, let me just write a note. Like, you know what I mean? Like, why would they ever do that? Like, as long as they pay the artist to get the credit, then if you are interested in a song, like if you like the song that much and you want it, and if the original is what you want, because again, that doesn't even make sense. So what? Because someone made this song, no other versions of the song can ever be made for the end of time. Like, that doesn't make any sense. So if you're so obsessed with the first of things, because I know people are like that, the first album or the first song, like people love that shit. You know, if you are obsessed with the originals of things, then just listen to the original then. Like, you don't have to listen to the sample version. Like, I don't get what the problem is. I honestly don't. It was very confusing.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time on this. This is not necessarily what we were coming to chat about today, but we both think sampling is awesome, and you know, we'll talk about it at some point. We'll have
I think we should have an episode
down the line.
100% we should have an episode down the line, isn't it?
We both and I think that's something that we like to do. Be like, actually, the originals are sick as well. So,
yeah, exactly.
You know, there'll be some shout outs to different cultures, different languages as well. Mm-hmm. Something we like to do as a collective.
Artist spotlight. Come on, I got it right this time. Compared to last week. Artist spotlight.
What did you call it last week?
Spotlight artist. I was so triggered.
Oh boy. Anyway, spotlight series this week was j.cole Bishop.
Yeah.
And
tell me about him.
Yeah. What is there to say? There's a lot to say. I think one of the first things that really drew me to him was he had an interview with Complex magazine last year. Okay. And it just, he just came across as like a really genuine guy who wasn't ready to, even as he says himself, he spent a period of time homeless, just kind of sleeping in the studio, sleeping at friends' houses. And during that time, obviously had very little money and was kind of in the process of writing music, looking for record deals, but still knew his worth. Like you're saying at the beginning, the economics. He knew he had assets, and he wasn't ready. He wasn't ready to kind of sell himself, you know, for less than he thought he was worth. I think that's awesome. And in the meantime, he's now kind of, he said he was like prioritizing his health last year was, you know, I love all this social distancing, staying aside a lot, a law-abiding man, and just perfecting his craft in the last kind of 12 months. Set up his own kind of subsidiary label, j.cole. I just think he has such a unique voice, a pretty cool flow as well. If people have seen, we've got a playlist called Spotlight series.
Yeah, so
we've got a couple of songs on there. Katana was a sick song. He had one with Absol last year. You particularly liked the one. What was it called?
Super good
Colour
song.
Show performance.
Yeah, that was really, really good.
Really, really good.
Yeah, so obviously he's like an LA artist, right? So I think he's relatively new on people's radars. I think he's like quite, especially in terms of this country, he's quite fresh out the water. So it's quite surprising that he's collabed with some big artists like, you know, Absol, Mick Jenkins, Kenny Beats,
Slow Tie.
Yeah. So he seems like a guy who's like very, very much on his way. He feels, I feel like I've made this comparison before, but it just works. I feel like if Brockhampton needed a new member, they would call this guy. Like, he does seem... Yeah, he does seem like...
I thought that without actually having that thought. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, he gives that type of energy. Like, he's very, like, hyphy, but at the same time, he also kind of reminds me of, like, the way... Like, his cadence kind of reminds me of Jid, in a sense. I don't think they talk about the same things or they rap the same way. Just that jittery, like, and high-paced, high octane type of rap. Yeah. But at the same time, I feel like it's very much like, I can imagine Brockhampton featuring this.
Danny Brown?
Yes, perfect.
That is, I've been trying
Danny
to think
Brown.
of this for the last week.
Yeah,
I was about to say I'll wait to the end of the episode. Danny Brown is the guy I was thinking of.
Danny Brown. That is it. That's it. Danny Brown. You're right. That was a good one. That was a good comparison. Danny Brown. So yeah, he seems like, you know, the Danny Brown of this decade kind of thing. Like, so yeah, I think his song's really good. I think I Rate the Color Show is really, really good. His freestyles are really good. Like, I'm surprised he doesn't have a project out. I'm pretty sure that's going to come at some point.
Yeah, well, he said he's kind of got it, but then he's just been kind of going back to it and editing it since he's had kind of time indoors.
See,
which is a good thing, and one of those things that with certain artists you worry about when they keep going over and they keep fine tuning it.
Or like,
but he's a young artist though, isn't he?
I have no idea how old he is.
I'm pretty sure. No, but I'm saying on the scene.
Oh,
so I'm
yeah,
pretty sure he has quite a clear vision.
Yeah.
This is, his first big project, so yeah, I don't worry too much about the quality. I think it will be sick.
Fair. I mean, his freestyles have been really good. I liked Push to Start. I liked Trick Daddy. Like, yeah, he's got something to him. Like, he's got like a nice little wordplay here and there. But yeah, no, that Danny Brown person was so perfect. I think that's exactly what it is. Back at It was a song with Absol. Absol went absolutely off in that one. Like, so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's got a lot of promise. I think it would just be interesting to see like, I think this is the first artist who kind of put to the spotlight that has no EP, no album out. He's just someone who's like seems well known in that like undergroundish scene. So yeah, I just want to see what it would be like on a project.
Like he seems to have the like
connections,
the infrastructure around him to make it. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, for sure. But
big events taking place this week. Top A. Big political events.
I guess. Welcome to hell. Yeah, that's an operation, isn't it? Yeah. Godly. Yeah. I didn't watch it. Did you watch it?
I did watch it. Of course I watched it.
Yeah, of course you watched it.
I had 3 screens up, but yeah, I had one of them was the inauguration. Yeah, just good to see, Yeah. Finally, 4 years of hell for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think people expected it to be a lot more disruptive than it was. It seems like today went off quite peacefully. Well, I think after what happened at the Capitol, I think people expected it to be, just like ragged, or someone's just gonna come up. Like, I think someone made a joke. It was based on the show Scandal. I don't know if you watched it. Someone said, "Oh,
I haven't." No.
Someone said, for the listeners, you'll get it. He's like, someone said Joe Biden better wrap this up before B613 comes. And I thought that was really hilarious. So you won't get it, John. It's fine, but it's really funny.
I'm smiling.
But I think
they were not going to let there be a repeat. So huge amounts of security. What was it 20,000 National Guard brought in? There was not going to be a repeat. Like, they were taking zero chances.
I mean, they should have done it last time, but
great ceremony though. Really, really good poet there. I think she was like the Young National Laureate in 2017. Really, powerful message. Nice to see. Was it j.cole sang and Lady Gaga sang? Great scenes.
Of course she did. Michelle Obama looked amazing though. Shout out to Michelle Obama and Barack as well. They looked amazing.
They are the coolest couple. They're too slick. They're too cool. Yeah. But yeah, a president who we don't always get political in the show, but let's be honest, a president who did not abdicated his responsibilities for 4 years, did not kind of I mean, there's so much we can say about it.
I mean,
responsibility is the key theme for today.
Yeah, I mean, we speak about ex-President Trump at this time of recording, but
feels good to say.
Yeah. I mean, if you think of it, just what you mentioned, responsibility, because I think within those 4 years, there were a lot of artists. And obviously, we are a music podcast at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
There were a lot of musicians and artists who were kind of endorsing Trump, and I think you're allowed to have whatever political alignment you're meant to have. Like, I mean, if you're right wing, you're right wing. For left wing, I personally don't give a fuck. But I think sometimes with a lot of people, actually, let's just start off there, because I think that's the interesting post to you. Do you think that if you are an artist, so let's say an established artist, so people actually know who you are, like, not just someone who makes music in their basement. Like, you're a known artist. Do you think there is a responsibility that comes to that, like an actual responsibility, or it's just it's optional? Like, oh, you could hold some responsibility, but you don't have to. Like, where do you kind of stand on it?
I don't know. I was listening to a really short interview with Common, and he was saying, kind of in his, his aged wisdom now, like he's being used in his platform for different reasons. He's wanting to kind of speak up and kind of use his voice in a positive way, in a way that kind of lifts up other people's voices that don't necessarily have a platform.
Yeah.
But when he was a young artist, he was like, yeah, like, I had a voice and I was going to use it to talk about me and talk about why I'm so great. So I do understand, of course, like young people in the hip hop, R&B rap game, they want to just talk about themselves because they're new to it, and they don't necessarily understand. They probably understand in their heads, but they don't fully realize the kind of platform they have. So I think it is definitely more of an old man's game, it seems, in hip hop. It seems to be something that, album 2, 3, 4, you might get a little bit more political. The ideal is, yes, like, I think if you've got a platform and you're that way inclined, use it for good, use it to speak out when you can, and to also use your craft to get across a message that is like uplifting or gives voices to people. Yeah. What about you?
I kind of get that, but I think I'm not on the spectrum of, I don't think you should do it for the sake of, like, no shade to any artists out there, but a lot of artists aren't the brightest bulbs in the room. Some of them have been
I get that.
Yeah, I mean, some of them are rapping since they were a teenager. They never had to go to like college or university, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, they kind of just were always rappers, and they kind of went on that way. So I'm not going to be really inclined to listen to what that person has to say about politics. Yeah. Neither should anyone. I don't think anyone should go to the people they like just for information on things about the world at large. I think, that's probably not a wise way to go about it. But then you see people like, Lil Wayne, who's had such a massive influence on the world. Like, he's one of the biggest rappers of all time. Mm-hmm. And I think when people see someone like him, maybe the same, because it's not like he's necessarily endorsing Trump, but it's like, oh, I don't give a fuck. Like, basically, I don't give a fuck. And I think when I say there's responsibility to be like, I think when people say that, I think people naturally think, because rap came from oppression and struggle and stuff like that, I think people think people who are rappers are naturally going to be aligned left.
Just naturally by like speaking their reality.
Just by definition of being in that genre, which for the most part is true. But I think for artists who are just literally, I just want to rap, I just like the science and craft of rapping, then fair enough. Like, fair enough. Like, I'm not gonna say like he's wrong for that, but I can't say he's wrong for it. Because I don't think I'd go for Lil Wayne for like, Lil Wayne, do you know what I mean?
I'm not gonna let this go, but Dave Chappelle in one of his stand-ups, he's like,
the Ja Rule.
Oh shit, the world's on fire. Where's Ja Rule? Somebody get me Ja Rule. It's like, nobody cares what Ja Rule thinks.
Yeah,
it was a funny skit.
No, it's true, and I think that's why that skit is so legendary to so many people. Because like, why the fuck would you go to someone like Ja Rule? And I think the same about Lil Wayne. Like, why would I go to Lil Wayne about his political line? It doesn't affect how I feel. It shouldn't affect how the masses feel. But I think that's the problem that people have, where I think people who believe that Lil Wayne is like kind of moving reckless are the same people who kind of feel like music is very impressionable, because the only reason you'll be bothered by Lil Wayne saying, he doesn't give a fuck, is because you think that people who are listening to him also won't give a fuck. And I don't think music translates in that manner, in my opinion. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I get what you're saying, and I definitely think that, if people are politically inclined and believe they have something to contribute, or like a message that will get through to people, then I think it's great for them to share it. Obviously not everyone's so not everyone is articulate in that way. But I think, just what I kind of dislike is he kind of equates, or does he? I don't know. He talks about his personal experience, and I respect that he doesn't say everyone else is lying. He just talks about himself. But in being on, what was it? It was on Undisputed with Shannon Sharp and Skip Bayless. Absolute scenes. Yeah. Every single episode. If people don't watch that. But yeah, what was it? Uncle Shay Shay? What was it? Shay's Shack. Anyway, if people have seen that, then he says, he said in another interview as well, like, he's a young, rich black guy, and if that doesn't explain that Americans respect black people, then he doesn't know what does. And he kind of talked on Undisputed, saying that, you know, he looks out in his crowd and there are white and black people enjoying his music, so he's not in his, if he wasn't, he's in this position, so that explains that there is a lack of kind of racism.
But that's the thing, and I think, you know what, I think given who he is, he's absolutely right. But the thing is, you need to understand, I think people need to understand, I'm pretty sure you understand, John, but like, people need to understand that the way that an artist lives is not the way regular people live. Like, their perspective, do you know what I mean? Their perspective on the world is so warped, and not in a bad way. It's just by definition of them being famous and being an established artist, they're gonna get respect and perks that you just wouldn't get if you were just some regular guy walking across the street. So I think in terms of his frame and the way the world kind of looks out to him and the way he looks at the world, I think he's being genuine when he says that. But I think what he's not doing is being empathetic and being, okay, if I wasn't one of the biggest rappers of all time, if I wasn't, you know, sending out all these tours, how would people treat me? And because of the ego that comes with being such a massive rapper, you know, it's hard to kind of see that.
It's hard to empathize.
Yeah, and I think that's the problem that comes with it. So I get what you're saying. I think I get that. I get the problem with spreading misinformation, but that's gonna happen regardless. Like, same way there's people call a lot of these, like, a lot of people think that a lot of right-wing people are uneducated, and it's like, that's not true. Like, a lot of them are educated, but you know, some yes, you know, it's like, it's not necessarily a case of, oh, the uneducated people are just gonna like follow Lil Wayne. It's like, you know, sometimes like you can just take what he's saying and be like, oh, you know, I don't agree with that. And that's pretty much it. Like, I don't think I think it's a different thing if they're putting it in their songs, because I think the way I consume music personally is sometimes, a lot of the time, I look for music for ideas, or like I look at music the way I read a book. I'm like, oh, this is a good story, and I take some lessons from that. So I think if he was saying, oh, you know, if he was saying the same things that he was saying, like, oh, you know, I see he may put it in a rap. I don't know how Lil Wayne would put that in a rap. I can't do that. But yeah, if he was saying that in a rap, then it's like, and someone says, oh, you know, that's actually true, then maybe that might be a bit damaging. But if he's just kind of talking off the mic and saying all of that, then I don't really care. And I think that's why I kind of keep a distance between the artist and the person, because who you are as a person, I can't bank on you being a person I'll like. But I can bank on liking your music. And I think that's what you got to keep that divide between the two.
Interesting. So yeah, moving from that example, I was wondering what do we have? I think it was maybe July time last year with No Name and j.cole. And I just want to get your thoughts on that, because that, I feel like my opinion that I had immediately has changed a little bit to what it is now. So I was wondering, what's your take on that? So the context of that obviously was, you know, after the George Floyd killing and a lot of the kind of protests that were going on after that. No Name has obviously been very like politically vocal and active, well. And save it. It's my time to talk, but you know. But yeah, and kind of educating a lot of people with her little book club. I say little, with her book club on her Instagram, and then enter j.cole. Over to you.
I mean, she kind of called them out. She's like, I think she said something along the lines of, some of your favorite rappers, you know, stay silent when these things happen and stuff like that. And I think people, and I know people always like, oh, she didn't really say anyone by name. It's like, come on, fucking do the math, mate. Like, come on, you know who she's talking about. Like, she's talking about some of the biggest rappers in the game, because you can't say some of your lot's favorite rappers and not think of the biggest rappers. That's just a logical next step to think about.
There's
So
three guys probably.
Yeah, there's
that
literally
would
three
immediately
guys.
think of.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? You think of Drake, you think of Kendrick, and you think of Cole. So, yeah. And I think obviously Drake has been criticized for not saying a lot in the past. I think, I mean, I'll be surprised if anyone criticized Kendrick, because I think he does it in a very, very profound way. But, you know, that's just me. And then you also got j.cole there as well. So I think j.cole replying, I know a lot of people are acting like he was just out of nowhere. Oh, like I saw a lot of replies at that time where people were like, oh, she wasn't even talking about you if the shoe fits. And it's like, let's not be obtuse here. Like, come on. Like, because for No Name to say that, the thing is, No Name is not a small artist either. So someone to say your favorite rappers, it's got to be someone who's bigger than her. And right now, especially in American hip hop, I don't think there's like many rappers who are bigger than her. I don't think. And no, don't get me wrong. No, I think there's a lot of people who know No Name. I get what you're saying. I think a lot of people know No Name. That's what I mean. Like, I think her, especially within America, like it's pretty big. And I think the rappers who she was calling out, I don't think she was calling out fucking Lil Baby and Gunna in that tweet. I don't think she was, mate. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? I think she was being more specific about that. So j.cole comes out with the song, was it Snow on the Bluff? And you know, it doesn't matter to the story, but just for context, that was like a fucking bad song. It was a bad song. One of the worst j.cole's ever dropped. Not because he was rapping badly or anything like that. I just didn't see the purpose of it. I was like, why did he make a song about this? Like, it was really strange. And, you know, again, he does that same shit. He's doing the same shit No Name's doing, like being passive and not really calling her out by name, and, you know, leaving that room for discussion as well, which is just weird. So he kind of comes out saying that instead of like criticizing us, why didn't you educate us and things like that. And then he made a tweet after saying, I can't be saying like, oh, like he doesn't take back anything he said. Everyone should follow No Name, and you know, all that PC shit, whatever. So I'll just give a quick thoughts on that. I think. So are you talking about in terms of a social manner, in terms of responsibility that way? Is that what you're asking, right?
That, and also there's obviously the whole conversation about whether he meant it in that way or not. The phrase, like something about the Queen's tone. A lot of people understand.
Oh
yeah. I know it's different coming from j.cole because he is a black man, but like obviously people know the narrative of like women being, especially black women being portrayed as like uncouth, as aggressive, as speaking out of line, and that kind of, whether he intended it or not, that alludes to it. Saying there was I didn't mind what you said, but like there was something about the tone, and that's something I don't think I immediately picked up on. And I was like, it's like, it's the rap game. Like, let him say what he wants. Like, he's not out of line or being misogynistic. These are my initial thoughts, because it's rap. If you like slyly at someone, expect to get a clap back. But I think just in the context of everything that was going on, I've kind of understood her point of view a little bit more.
I get the critique on that. I think No Name's Twitter is just like a twilight zone at this point, because sometimes I go and I'm like, fuck, you know, this girl made telephone. Like, what? Like, let me get back out. Like, doesn't even seem like the same woman these days. And fair enough, she's probably going through her own like path of enlightenment or whatever. But even what you just said, I mean, don't forget, No Name made her own clapback with produced by Madlib. You know, something
crazy beat.
Yeah,
1 minute, what is it? 1:33. That beat.
Yeah, it's really short song, but don't like. It's not like No Name kept quiet after that. But I think No Name was basically trying to portray that, okay, no, there's responsibility, because it's the whole theme of this episode. There's responsibility to kind of talk out when these things happen. But I think No Name putting that tweet out there, it's shady. I can't lie, it is shady, because one thing I know about these artists, and people always need to have this context there, because when you have this context there, it makes you rethink everything you see on the internet. No Name and j.cole have collabed before. they were both on the song on Surf. They know of each other. Let's not get it twisted. So they probably both followed each other on Twitter, socials, or whatever. So if they had a problem with one another, they could just DM each other. At the very worst, I don't know if they have their phone numbers. I'm just saying, at the very worst, they can just contact each other. So all the things you see on the internet is because they want you to see it on the internet. That's just a fact. You can't debate that. So No Name kind of putting out those passive aggressive tweets, I get it. Maybe she's frustrated, which is fair.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're drawing them out. And I think he kind of, unlike Stormzy, he keeps it to music. So he's like, fuck it, I'm going to reply in a song. Weird song, fair enough. But then she also replies to music as well. And it ends up just being a really weird dynamic when it's like, okay, but there's no beef here. You just,
Yeah, sorry I said that. I meant it, but also, like, let's still be friends.
Yeah, it was really strange. Really strange. So yeah, so like, I think, and you were talking about the whole, like, the tone thing. I kind of get that. Yeah. I don't think, I obviously I don't know fucking j.cole, do I? But I don't think he was talking necessarily just for himself there. I think he was talking about just people as a whole. And I think he was talking about, okay, like, yeah, you're saying people don't know about certain things or people aren't aware about certain things, then because that's one thing I really hate when people on like social media are like, why isn't everyone talking about this? And it's like, okay, instead of wasting your time making that post, you could just talk about the thing you think people need to talk about.
Yeah, because I think part of his point was that she has, I mean, I don't know her background, but I think he was alluding to her having a very different upbringing to his, and it being more
that was bad.
Like,
that was a mistake.
That she had perhaps been like more privileged and was encouraged to like find out things for herself a little bit more, was encouraged to learn and read about these issues and be more, hate the word, quote unquote, woke about things. And he wasn't, so he's kind of bemoaning her maybe patronizing tone, but then he comes back a little bit patronizing with the
it's like when he did say the part where he said he just like he doesn't read, that was kind of mind blowing. So it's like, you know what I mean?
It was a long track.
Yeah, it's like telling someone, oh, you should really be on top of your maths, son. Like, it's really important in your life. And then he's like, well, Dad, can you help me with my maths homework? It's like, I don't really use maths in my everyday life. You know what I mean? Like, I just use Excel, but it's like, why are you telling someone to educate someone and like you don't even read? So it's like that is a bit cheeky. I can't lie. That's a bit wild to me.
Yeah, right. I'm gonna move us on because I have another couple of questions for you. One of them, I guess, as we're talking about responsibility, like as podcast hosts, you and I, what kind of responsibility do you think we have towards not just our listeners but towards the artist as well? What do you feel like our obligations are?
Well, that's a good question. I think the way I see it, and I think the way I've always kind of seen this show, is we're kind of like historians in a sense. And I think historians have an obligation to document things honestly. So I think when we talk about artists or when we talk about people's legacy or we talk about albums, I think we try our hardest to be honest with how we feel. So when we are saying stuff like Hotels isn't an instant classic, we're not doing that to show an artist. We're doing that to be honest, because 5 years time, a lot of you aren't gonna listen to that album. Sorry, but like I think that's what it is. I think we have a responsibility to bring honest conversation to the music space, because I think so much of the space is filled up with, let me talk really nicely about this artist so I can interview him one day. It's like, we don't give a fuck about that. Like, we'll talk shit on artists that we like, and we talk about shit. We talk nicely about artists we don't like, and we'll give credit where it's due. I think music is subjective at the end of the day, but at the same time, you want to be objective in how you critique them. So I think there's a responsibility to do that. Just be honest. Like, for example, if Stormzy drops a great song, obviously I'm not the biggest Stormzy fan, I think everyone knows that, but if Stormzy drops a great song, I think there's a responsibility to be like, no, that's actually a good fucking song. Do you know what I mean? I think that's where it kind of, that's how I modeled it. Like, I think it's just we have a responsibility to kind of like model and portray the discussions we have as honestly as we can and not really hold back. Yeah. What about you?
I agree with you. I think you often, maybe not on the podcast, but when we talk about music, you use the word candid to try and encapsulate what we're trying to do here. I agree. I think also what we do with like the Spotlight series is, I think there's a particular responsibility to highlight artists on our humble platform that we have right now. I think there's still a responsibility to bring artists to the foreground, to even if it's just some friends and family, or a couple of viewers. Shout out our viewers in California, quite a few there. Thank you guys.
Oh yeah,
Brazil,
we've got we've got like 10% of US listeners.
Israel, a few other countries around.
Bulgaria, like a lot of fucking places. I think it was Brazil I saw as well. Like, some nuts places. Shout out to you guys.
But just to bring new music and highlight, just I guess do our bit, bring music to people, and again, just be honest, not kind of pander to the big artists, because we hope that in 3 years when we're working at Spotify Studios that we'll Drake in and talk about how Dark Lane demo tapes was an instant classic. So
you know what? It's not the start of the episodes, and you thought you got away with it, but you're never gonna get away with it, John. So one fact about John. So it's perfect segue. You know what it is with these episodes, right? I know a lot of people think I'm the villain, right? They think I'm the bad guy and you're the good guy. I'm the bad cop, you're the good cop. But really, have you ever seen that meme on Twitter where it's like, the TV show villain and the actual villain? I'm the TV show villain. John is the actual villain. John's the true villain behind the scenes, because he judges you lot's music opinions very harshly. He might not say it outwardly, but he comes to me like we see everything, guys. We see everything. And
I've got 15 episodes of proof that I'm a very calm guy. Anyway. Moving on.
Would you disagree, John? Would you disagree?
I feel like I've admitted can be a bit of a snob sometimes about music, but then at the same time I come across people that know way more about music, and then I feel very small. So there we go. But I guess in other types of responsibility, one thing I really find interesting is, I don't want to just call it cancel culture, but the idea of how do you, if you can, how do you separate the artist from the art, and do you think there's a responsibility to stop listening to certain artists who have kind of been not just like criminal, but they've used their platform to kind of to either be abusive to people or to commit crimes, and their platform in itself is like a reflection of that. Like, you can't get away from it. You can't separate their career from the abuse or the harm they've caused.
Oh, it's a good question. It is a good question.
It's something I've really been thinking about. I think about it on and off, but like a lot the last few weeks. You have like obvious examples like Michael Jackson, R. Kelly. Like I started watching last year House of Cards. I've stopped now because I'm thinking about it more. But like Kevin Spacey, people like that, and it's not just some kind of. It's not that the harm they've caused is analogous or like separate from their art. It's like they've been able to commit these acts because of their position, and like they've used their position not for good, for bad. And it's like how I really struggle with that. I'm like, how do I justify listening to, Thriller, or how do I justify listening to this and that song when, If you want to think on it, I can keep talking.
No. I have. This is a question I think of a lot of time. I think it's a great question. I think it's a really good question. I think, here's where I stand on it currently on 10/19 on the 20th of January 2021. So as I'm, the obvious implication is that my opinion is subject to change, but this is where I stand on it currently.
Yeah.
I think as much as you can, you should always separate the artist from the person. That doesn't even account for that doesn't just account for bad people. That can account for people you even like. Because you might meet an artist that you really like And you know what? They just got a bit of an ego. You just want to take to them. That's not a bad thing. It's just is what it is. I think with any artist you like, especially if you don't know them, you don't know them. And that's just that. I'm sorry. Like, you don't know them. You're not connected to them because the song really relates to you. You don't know them. So I think you should always try and just keep the music as the music and stay there as much as you can. But there are times where obviously because a lot of people, they're telling their truth. So a lot of times, some people are singing things that have really happened to them. Some people are singing things that are real events in their lives, and they might be stuff you don't agree with, and you can't separate that. There's no way you can separate that because I can't act like the songs that these artists are making are so separate to their lives, because a lot of it is influenced from the lives that they live, if not all of it. So that's that. I think I get that side. I think also you brought some interesting examples where I feel like if I hear the music and I feel like it's directly related to a real life situation that I might not feel comfortable with, or it might force me to look at the music in a different way, then I'll probably just sign out. Do you know what I mean? So like R. Kelly and stuff like that. I think he has a lot of music that's directly related to some of the things he was doing. Michael Jackson, I don't think that's all these songs. I think he has a lot of songs that are completely unrelated to what he was doing. And I think I still find enjoyment in those songs. I'm able to enjoy it without looking at the songs in that way. It's a very complicated question.
It is.
But it is. But I think if I did that for every artist, and I think people forget, and just to, bring the curtain down for a lot of people, it's like Santa isn't real, isn't it? Like, a lot of artists have egos. A lot of artists are pricks. And it's just by definition of being a massive artist. I mean, it's just, it's gonna happen. So I always try to just look at, I like this, like, I don't know. I think it should be applied to everything. Like, I honestly think,
I've got a follow-up question for you.
Go ahead.
So from your kind of answer, do you think of music as different from other art forms? And part two of that question is, do you think that music's consumed in a more passive way than other art forms? And is that why you say what you say?
Yes, I do.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I disagree. 100%.
I think about it, right? People, you can take more from watching a movie once than to listening to an album once, even though the album is shorter. I don't necessarily agree. That's what I'm saying. Like, for example, if you watch a movie once,
I don't necessarily agree. I disagree.
No, I get what you're saying, but I'm just saying, the fact of my point, right? If I watch The Dark Knight Rises once, I can take most of what's happened in that film and remember it, even that one sitting, right? But if I listen to an album once, there's so many things that I might have missed on that one listen. I feel like you take more, because that's where most people start and leave. It's the first listen. So that's what I'm just kind of basing my whole argument off. So I think when it comes to that, I think there's so much more you can take from music, movies and other forms of media and music. Because I think some people listen to, and again, I think you're saying that because of the way you listen to music. You listen to music with a lot of intent, where a lot of people don't. Do you know what I mean? So that's what I'm saying. So I think a lot of people don't. I think a lot of people listen to music to kind of aid them in whatever task they're doing, whether it's cleaning up the house, whether it's driving to a destination. So yeah, stay with me. I see your face. Go on.
I knew you were going to say that. I've got a counterpoint, but keep going. I'm just
okay. Cool. So with that being said, I think when it comes to like a movie or like anything like that, anything with like any other performing art, you don't necessarily have to bring yourself into that art form, because it's not like you watch Denzel Washington movies and expect to understand who Denzel Washington is as a person. You don't. You just see, it's a fucking good actor. You can really act that role. Whereas if I'm listening to 5 albums of, and I don't know, Kendrick Lamar, I expect to understand, he went through that when he was like 15. Like I feel like I understand the person more. I feel like a lot of artists do that, where they start sharing their story through their music. I don't think that's applicable for other forms of media. I don't think. I'd still go on. Hit me with a counterpoint then. Cool. Hit me with it.
No. Yes, I think I definitely disagree. Like I was thinking about it, the classic, like, this you know, this isn't the music I listen to. This is just like my gym, my running playlist.
Yeah.
I think that's bullshit. But anyway, so with music, right? Like the way that people are listening to our podcast right now, most likely on streaming platforms. So like music in the same way. You kind of said that you think about it as different to other forms of art, and I think that could possibly be the way we're consuming it now, like online streaming, right? Like streaming is one of the reasons for streaming going online is, you know, artists were getting ripped off, like everything was going online, like Napster, stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's partly moved because of technology, and partly I think to combat the kind of like the illegal music market, which was massive.
Yeah,
like and now I think people subconsciously think about consuming music as a passive act because, you know, I was reading an article a couple of days ago saying that like we don't like own music necessarily unless, you know, we own vinyls. We like rent music. So like it's not ours. We're just like consuming it. And therefore we kind of think that like listening to music is an incredibly like, I feel like it's a really like personal thing. Like you're sat in your room with your headphones on, literally just you and whoever.
I think that's
you and Lauren Hill.
Up.
You and
no,
really,
that's the thing, John. That's the thing. I mean, that's how.
No.
That's the thing. I think that's how we listen to music, because when we listen to music, we're picking up on what the artist is saying, the beat. Oh, when the beat changes.
No, but I don't even necessarily think it's how conscious you are in it. I think it's just the act of doing it as well. Because a lot of people just listen to random playlists. A lot of people that we cannot, for the life of us, comprehend shuffle albums. We wouldn't listen to it in the way that it's meant to be, but they're still listening to it, and they're still taking like music's different from books and films because you feel it in such a different way. Like if I like listen to a song, not only am I hearing like words here and there and a tune, but like, you know, it's like going through your body, isn't it? Like when you hear music, you like either want to like dance or you like properly like bop to the music. Whereas if you're reading, you're not necessarily going around like humming some Shakespeare, humming like Sonnet 23 from Shakespeare. But you are like humming the tune to the latest like Freddie Gibbs, the latest Taylor Swift song. So I think in that sense, there needs to be an acknowledgement of like how deep music runs, and it's not a passive act. I don't think in that sense.
Oh, I get. Oh man, you pose a good point, my man. But I think it depends, because you said music is personal, right? And I think based off, if we go off that definition, I think what people take from music also differs from person to person.
Maybe personal is the wrong word. Maybe I meant to say intimate, because I do feel like it's intimate.
It is intimate, but I still think what I said still stands, right? I think whereas you might take, for example, I know you're a man of words and production, so what the person might say might be way more important than the hook. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It might be, what they said on the third verse. It was like crazy. Like, what? How could he say that? Whereas I think for most people, it's the hook. Like, there's so many, like, I think that's why it's no surprise, right, that it took so many years to realize that Drake and Future were the same person. Because I think people kind of, like, because Drake has a lot of, like, you know, misogynistic, like, rhymes, right? It's very similar to Future. And obviously, he's the only one who's kind of seen as a toxic one. But I think it's because of the way Drake says these things. And I think that's the power of music as well, because it's like the medicine that goes down easy. Do you know what I mean? I can say something that's really kind of
that spoonful of sugar.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Like, do you know what I mean? That spoonful of sugar, but it has that necessary medicine. I think you can wrap up something that's quite like, oh, what? Like, how could he say that? You can wrap that up in something quite sweet. We even spoke about it with the Little Sims episode. We talked about Selfish, where the message of the song is wrapped in this like R&B-esque song. And I think a lot of artists are like that, where they might throw a couple lines here and you're like, what? Like, the fuck? Do you know what I mean? Like, we pointed it out as well. Like, there's so many, like, you know, your guy Big Sean, obviously, like, there's so many lines where it will literally just go past you. There's no way, unless you sit down and intently listen to the song, you're not going to hear it. Because, and the thing is, artists know this as well. Like, if you think about, let's just stick to, like, rap, right? For example, when an artist wants you to hear something, there'll be, like, a beat break, for example. You know that. The beat will stop, the words will just say. That means if anything else misses you in a song, they want you to hear that part, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that's the same way. So I think, yeah, I get it. If I'm just sitting listening to Lauryn Hill in my room, it's very different if I'm like, okay, no, like, what does this word mean? Or what does she mean when she says this? I think it's a very different experience. And I think most people, especially our age, I don't think they're listening to music to necessarily understand the whole message. I think they listen to it because it sounds nice. I do believe that.
Yeah, I agree. I think we might be at like different. I think we might be slightly misunderstanding each other because I don't think what my point isn't based on the pretext of me listening to music in a different way to Joe blogs down the road. Like, we may listen to music in different ways, but the music is still going to impact you in some way. And I think I don't usually do this. I'm going to refer to another article. You know, we're the Vinyl Collective. We're scholars here.
Wow.
It's actually an article my girlfriend sent me. It was by someone called Roxane Gay, and there's a quote on it saying, you know, we can no longer worship at the altar of creative genius while ignoring the price too often paid for that genius. And I think it's a thing of like these artists. I'm not going to name names because, you know, I'm not on a high horse. I listen to certain artists and it's something I'm thinking about right now. But like when artists use their voice that's, you know, based on, you know, criminal acts or kind of like abuse of others, like R. Kelly's the one I just can't stop thinking about. Like, it was there in all of the music and people, either or refused to see it. And I'm saying that's the like most explicit example, but I'm saying also people that don't necessarily show it through their art, they're still there in that position and they're still using that voice and that platform to do things behind the scenes. And I don't think it matters whether it's explicit or not in their music or their art, because the person that's on the receiving end of their abuse or their you know, sexual assault, whatever it is, they don't have a voice. And I think that's what was really interesting about the article. Like, the voice and the voiceless, right?
Okay, let me give you a scenario, right?
Go for it.
Let's say you're on the hospital bed, right? And you need like vital surgery to save your life. And there's only one doctor that's able to do this, right? And he's like the best doctor in, you know, fucking Southeast London, right? But he has a sexual assault criminal record, right?
Is this going to be the like, can God create a stone too heavy for him to lift?
No, it's not that. It's just saying, like, you wouldn't say he's not one of the best doctors in his field because he sexually assaulted someone. Doesn't mean what he did isn't fucked up. It is, but does that interfere with his work? Because that's the thing. It says it's his day job, and I think that's the same with music. I think there's a lot. You're shaking your head, but I think there's a lot of artists that there's a lot of artists that do tie their life with their music, and there's a lot of artists that don't. There's a lot of artists that don't, and I think some people, they are just singing or rapping to pay their wage, and what they do in their real life, whether that's NBA, whether that's, you know, people talking about Carla Malone today as well, like, you know, NBA, whether it's like whatever it is, like the people that we're talking about exist among us regardless, and not all of them are artists, but yet they still have a responsibility in the world, and you can't say that the responsibility doesn't hold weight, and that's the crazy thing.
Yeah, but you're, again, I think go back to my point earlier, like you're choosing to consume their art, and whether you want to try and separate the art from the artist, like they are inextricably linked.
No, I think with R. Kelly, what you're saying is, I get the R. Kelly thing because I think it's directly linked. I don't think there's a way you can look at R. Kelly's music without thinking about that, whereas I can listen to, I can listen to Thriller and not think of, I don't think of Thriller and think of his allegations against him. I don't. Whereas I can listen.
But I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I just don't agree that, or at least I'm trying to move towards acting that out. That like having an artist who's abusive but doesn't talk about it, that's okay because he's keeping it out of his art.
No, I get. No, I'm not saying it's okay. Like, because I think in the world we live in now, like, because streams count towards sales, you can choose not to support that person because, you know, you don't want to put more money in the pocket of someone you don't really believe in or don't really trust. I get that, but the music is still the music. And what if because music is a point in time. We said this before. Music documents history, so they might have been a completely different person. I mean, Kanye's a great example of this, right? Kanye, who he was in 2004, is not the same Kanye we have today. That doesn't mean all the things he's saying in 2004 were obsolete. It's just, it's a point in time. Do you know what I mean? Some albums are lucky enough to live forever, and you know those are usually the great ones. But I get what you're saying. Like, I think you could choose not to endorse the artist, but I think the music that they make doesn't necessarily mean it ties in. And I think some of them are really good at that. I think some of them are. I think there's some artists who are like, what? I can't believe you are like this. Like, what? I can't believe it. Like, it just happens sometimes. It's really weird. It's weird, but I think because we see music as like a journal of our lives, when a lot of people don't necessarily take it that way. And I think it's probably more so that way. I get what you're saying. It's interesting.
I'm gonna give one more retort before we go on. Yeah, I think it's just, I know we keep referring back because they're the most explicit example is Michael Jackson and R. Kelly, but I think even just with other artists, like if we know about things that they are doing behind the scenes to people that don't have voices, and the person that's doing it does have a voice, in us listening to their music, whether we like it or not, whether we're doing it, whether we're listening to their music and listening to all the words, or just listening to it when we're, you know, benching at the gym or running a 5K for the NHS, we are kind of, we're condoning their behavior because we're condoning their toxic lifestyle in which they can abuse people behind the scenes, and these people.
No, but I think we're kind of in agreement here, because I think what you're saying is you're still endorsing an artist. If you have knowledge of what they're doing and you're still listening to their music, you're endorsing them because you're still putting money in their pockets. I get that. I think if you don't believe in what they're doing, you shouldn't do that. I think we both agree there. I'm saying the content of the music, that doesn't affect the content of the music. So what's a good example? 444, right? That's a great example. Jay-Z is a known cheater. You know, he's done some shit in his marriage, whatever. But that doesn't mean the stuff you're saying in that album was wrong. You might have heard it from someone you don't want to hear it from, but it doesn't mean it's not true. And I think that's the thing. So it's like some people might say something like, oh, like, you know, for example, like if your mum says something, right, and you're like, oh, fuck, you know, maybe you're a bit annoyed, like, oh, you know, you don't want to take it as true, but you know it's true. It's like you just don't like the source it's coming from. I think that's what it is with artists sometimes. Like, if they are saying stuff that, oh, no, I actually agree with that, oh, I actually like that song, but you don't like the person, this is what I'm saying. This is it's really hard to separate the two, because, again, like I said, a lot of artists do put their life in their music, and it's really, as a consumer, it's hard to tell how much it's being put in their music. So I think if you really don't fuck with what someone's doing in their day-to-day life, I'd say just don't endorse them. And I think that's fair, because I think there are some things that are just bigger than music. There's some things that are just bigger than me just wanting to enjoy something, right? I don't want to enjoy something at the detriment of someone else. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I think I kind of get you on that level. I think I'm more talking about what is literally put in the music, and it might be genuine content, it might be fire, it might be stuff that I agree with. But if I think, oh man, like if I listen to his music, he's gonna get more money, he might have more power over people who don't have a voice and stuff like that, then yeah, I can't fuck with that. I get what you're saying, but
it's an interesting one, isn't it?
It's an interesting
it's hard, because I think a lot of people, I think probably most people that listen to us went through that with a lot of the people that we've mentioned today. Like, how do you separate, like, turning up to a club and they put on ABC or they put on, like, you know, some kind of like Michael Jackson banger, and you're like, yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's easier with R&B singers as well, because a lot of them have songwriters. So I guess you can even, like, kind of not trick yourself, but you can at least kind of tell yourself, oh, it's not even their song, is it? Whereas rappers, the whole basis of like hip hop and rap is that you write your own raps. So when you say something, it's like, that's really you. Whereas Michael Jackson, he ain't writing none of those songs, not a lot of them. So it's like, you don't have to look at it like, oh, that's Michael Jackson. It's like, oh, it's just a song that you sang, and do you know what I mean? So I think it's easier to do that with singers. Much easier to do that with singers than rappers, for sure.
Maybe singers. But anyway, let's move on. I think, another thing, I know we talked about that for a while, but one other thing we've mentioned on the podcast, I think people tuning in will remember if they listen to episode 2, which was music and mental health. We talked about I think we talked about it in the context of Mac Miller, and then we mentioned Weekend on a few episodes. But another type of responsibility in the music sense is that we have towards the artist, right? In the sense of just like a music consumer.
Yeah.
Do you think?
Wait, so say that again?
Do we have a responsibility towards the artist in what we ask them for in their music?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. I do think so because in the the first artist I'm thinking of is Heady One. We should have had another version of Gang, and fuck everyone who told him that Gang wasn't good, because that Gang was excellent and
it was sick.
If the fans gave him a better reception, then he would have continued. I think he would have.
Also, shout out Ore, who was on that episode with us and who explained to me, I didn't even know before, the actual concept behind the album and behind some of the songs. So
like I think it's a good. So like that's me. I feel like if it wasn't for that, he would have continued down that trajectory. I think Edna still would have happened, but I think he would have played with that sound a bit more. Maybe it would have been a Gang 2, or I don't know. So I think, there's definitely a responsibility, because artists are human beings. They definitely a lot of them look at all the things we're saying, and they're like, oh shit, like they like this stuff or they don't like this stuff. And like I think sometimes because that's the thing, because we are, at the end of the day, we are the consumer. So if we say we like this more than another type of sound, there are some artists who have like mad integrity and like, no, I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want anyways. And there's other artists where like, oh, this is what you guys want? It's okay, I'm going to do like 20. Yeah, do you know what I mean? And there's some artists like, oh, I'm going to do 22 tracks of this since you guys love it so much. And, there's literally guys who do that. I think, yeah. So I think, I think there's definitely a responsibility behind that, because, they're human beings. They're going to, do you know what I mean? Like, for them, like, for example, if you work your job right, your manager's going to tell you. Your manager's going to tell you if you're doing a good job or not. That's how you kind of grade your performance. Like, for music artists, that's us. Like, if we like the album, we stream it a lot, we say, oh my god, this is a classic, it's an instant classic. That's your kind of, that's your review, isn't it? That's your mid-year review, isn't it? Oh yeah, I did good. So I think for sure, like, for example, going back to the mental health thing, if an artist is making depressive music but it's fucking fantastic, I think you can do both. You can be like, oh, this music's amazing, but at the same time, I hope you find help. Like, you can do that, like, for sure. Like, there's, it's not like they're mutually exclusive. Like, I think, and I'm definitely a believer of, with great suffering comes great art. I think sometimes it is at that point of extreme suffering, like, the art just kind of comes out in a really profound form. So, but at the same time, you don't want, just because you like that doesn't mean you want someone to stay there. And I think I don't know how big that pool of people who would like kind of exploit that fan base are. I do think a lot of artists, not a massive amount, but a fair amount, artists do think for themselves. And I think even if fans like something, they're still going to do what they want to do. But I think that's why I do think there's responsibility, because I do think there are a lot of artists who, even if they do think for themselves, they might not believe in themselves, and they be like, oh fuck it, I want to do this, but the fans are saying this, so fuck it, I'll just do this then. And
that's not even necessarily at a certain point in an artist's career, because I think we can often think that, like, artists on their 4th, 5th, 6th album probably aren't going to be like, I don't think Kendrick Lamar is like, oh, the guys are really asking for this, I'm gonna give them another Good Kid, Mad City, because they didn't like the trumpets and the trombone on To Pimp a Butterfly. No, he's going to do what he wants. But then there are also obviously people who are like 3-4 albums in, and like Schoolboy Q,
that's a good example. Because when Crash Talk happened, he was very aware of the response. He was very aware of that response, and I think he was like, what? Like, so you guys basically want Blank Face again? And it's like, well, or you guys want Oxymoron again? And it sucks. It sucks, because these guys, maybe not individually, but collectively, they kind of determine your paycheck, don't they? So it's like, it's a really shit position to be in at the end of the day.
It is.
It's really shit, but it's true. Like, But Kendrick Lamar is someone who he has been given the freedom to do what he wants, because even if he doesn't drop another good album after Good Kid, Mad City, he's always going to make money off that.
Yeah.
He's never going to go broke again off the album. It's still in the Billboard, isn't it? Like, so it's
Probably,
like, I think,
I don't know.
do you know what I mean? So it's like, when you, but that's a very special case though. That's a very special case. Like, when someone has made an album that's just living forever, like Take Care or Good Kid, Mad City, like they're just on the charts forever and ever. It's like, okay, I can experiment, because even if this album flops, my previous album's still making money. I can still tour off that previous album, and that's that's a really unique position to be in. I think most artists aren't in that position. So if the fans say they don't like something, they usually, I mean, a lot of artists do kind of, I think when artists do experiment, even when they are experimenting, they always add one or two songs that are a throwback to their quote unquote typical sound, because I think they're so aware of that core fan base and what they want. It's hard, it's a risk, but yeah, I think
it is. Yeah,
for sure.
It's a tough one.
It's a tough one.
Yeah, I feel like there's so much more we could talk about on this topic,
For
something
sure.
that I think with this more so than other episodes, we would love to hear what people think about it, like your experiences, even if it's like specific artists as well. We'd love to hear about whether you think you can separate art from the artist, whether you want Drake to release a protest song or whatever.
Imagine that. Fucking hell, that would be so funny. Sorry, continue.
Whatever the case may be. Yeah, we'd love to hear what you guys are thinking.
God, yes, you could send your queries to vinyl-collectivepod@gmail.com. Sorry, that was so funny. Yeah,
Drake, if you're listening, we would like that.
For sure. I think that closes out the episodes, doesn't it, John?
That does.
Yeah,
does indeed.
So,
yeah.
As per usual, we close out episodes with our weekly playlist. So you can find that on Spotify. It's called Now and Then. So we add a song that is more, recent. I mean, and we put a throwback there. So, good blend of new and old. So what will be your songs of the week, John?
Oof. Okay, so my now song is Antidote by Neo and Adekunle Gold.
I haven't heard that yet. I'm saving it for the album.
It's nice. I mean, Neo, she's always bring the vocals. Yeah, great song.
She's 2 for 2. She's 2 for 2. Okay.
My then song is Kick Push by Lupe Fiasco.
Ooh, that's a big throwback.
Huge song.
All right.
Food and Liquor.
Yeah, good classic. Yeah. That's a classic. That is a bona fide TPC.
I've been trying to a little Vinyl Collective exclusive for you guys. I've been working. Tope knows that I'm a playlist fanatic.
Big playlist fanatic.
But yeah, I've been trying to work on a playlist. Maybe we'll release it from the Vinyl Collective on like storytelling rap songs of ones that literally just like narrate. See, when you think of that, you're like, the art of storytelling, Outcast, or like Fiasco, Kick Push. But yeah, I've been trying to work on it. Curate a little storytelling rap playlist. Okay. But anyway, on to you. Give us your new song.
On to me. So my first song, obviously, will be Jasmine Sullivan. No, I'm joking. It's not gonna be maybe another week. So just to touch on that, so many people are so butthurt by the Jasmine Sullivan things, and I always tell them, "You're welcome to come on the show, mate." But they never do. They never do, John. Do they? They always just kind of
our email, our Twitter, our inboxes are open.
Yeah. But, I don't think I said anything too harsh, but, I don't give a fuck anyways. So my now song, I mean, 2021 has been a bit recent, so I think I'll add a song from 2020. I mean, I think it's going to be pretty obvious to a lot of people, but Thames, Free Mind. Thames is fucking amazing, bro. Like, you need to listen to her. Like, I don't know if you listened to her before, but she is so, so good. So I'm adding that song. I know that came out later last year, but that's my now song. It's fucking amazing.
Cool. I've been seeing you listen to her recently.
So good.
Yeah, I need to check her out.
So good. So my then song, you might not expect this, but I'm gonna add "Stop" by Jamelia. I've been listening to a lot of Jamelia recently.
Love it.
I was a big fan of her when I was a kid, but she did an interview with Mo Gilligan that I listened to the other day. I was like, fuck. Yeah. So I was like, damn, like, she really is like a UK legend. She really is. She might have a classic under her belt, John. Like, she's a pretty hot artist. So so I was listening to her a bit recently, and I think definitely pay homage to some of my UK roots for sure. So yeah, that's my two.
Good ones.
Yeah,
you can find them on our Now and Then playlist on Spotify. We also have a Spotlight Shazam playlist as well. So during every episode, if we mention songs, you will most likely be able to find those on our podcast Shazam playlist.
Yeah,
as well as what's our third playlist?
What is our
Spotlight series?
Spotlight.
That's right. We mentioned it at the beginning. But three songs every week put on there, and shine the spotlight on some new artists.
Yeah. Also, don't forget to follow us on social. So on Instagram, it's Vinyl Collective Pod. On Twitter, it's TVC Pod. On Spotify and any other podcasting platform, it's the Vinyl Collective. You can find this episode. You can find our other 14 episodes on there if you want to do a little bit binge watch. Maybe it's your first time. You know, our followers are growing by the week, John. You know, we're steady growing. So
they are. We're on YouTube as well. If you want to
of course,
experience it that way.
Yeah, of course. And like I said, John is the bad cop. So again, like, if you want to kind of, John has definitely seen you guys copying our style. He's noticed. He's brought them to me. He's brought them to me.
I have no idea what he's doing.
So, if you want to kind of just stay up to date with what we're doing, then, find us on those socials.
Find us there. Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, that'll be the end.
That wraps us up. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, that was Responsibility. It felt like the right week to do it, didn't it?
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
the new president, end of a catastrophic era.
Yeah, for sure.
Donald Trump.
I think it's crazy because I think now you got to look like, because I mean, obviously we're going back and forth. We're having our jousts, but there's always a responsibility on the individual. I think it's, no pun intended, I think it's when that individual becomes part of a collective and what that collective means. I think that's when things get tricky. And obviously you've seen, like, there's a responsibility on us to kind of make the decisions that we want to see in the world. And I think maybe this time for America, they've kind of done that. But I think they only did that now because they've seen the consequences of not doing that. And to believe in something, it's so scary. I was saying this to a friend the other day, like, the scariest thing you can give someone is belief. To believe, that's the scariest thing. Like, when you have everyone who believes in the same thing, that is way scarier than anything else. And
the funny thing is that, like, didn't more people or a similar amount of people vote for Trump this time as they did last time? It's just the Electoral College. Yeah. So
it's nuts.
They won the numbers last time too.
And that's all just based on a belief, right? A belief of, I don't know, make America great again, or belief in, he's gonna do this for us. Like, it's just crazy. And I kind of get what you're saying with the artist, because if so many people believe in an artist, but what that artist says, it just holds an incomprehensible amount of weight. Yeah, it holds a crazy amount of weight. So that's the, and with artists, they can make a whole group of people at a concert believe in something, and that's just something you can't take for granted, really.
When you
honestly,
get millions of people believing that an election was rigged, even though there were no facts, or the facts pointed to the opposite, people still believed. So
you can have 1 million people thinking Her had an album of the year with no album. It's crazy.
The thing about Toppy is he manages to bring this up every single week.
Every week,
if he doesn't bring it up on the podcast, then you can be guaranteed that if you go to his Twitter feed, I'm not going to drop his Twitter app, he can tell you, but you'll 100%. Find a tweet about Her every week.
100%. It's funny.
That wraps us up.
That wraps us up.
Episode 15.
Cool. Yeah. 16 next week. See you next week.
Yeah.
Peace.
Thanks for tuning in.